What is the proposal for multidisciplinary education and research universities?
Bharat, for whom is this question? We are losing you somewhere.
Yes, ma'am. What is the proposal for multidisciplinary education and research universities?
Whom are you addressing this question to, Ida?
Meenu, ma'am.
Meenu, ma'am.
Fine. So good evening all first. Yes, this new education policy, which has come into picture on 29 July 2020. So many changes have been made in our previous education system. And now we are talking of multidisciplinary approach. What is that? Not only multidisciplinary approach, but we are also talking of interdisciplinary approach. Like earlier, we used to have IITs. They were, providing technical education, engineering education, but not the courses for humanities. But now onwards, with this policy, what we are planning is that we should have even the humanities subject in the IITs. And all the colleges, the education will be not just one college teaching commerce. No, there'll be multidisciplinary colleges, technical college, also giving the humanities and other subjects. So there has been a lot of flexibility. Even in the 11th, like we used to have streams, but now it is not a stream, not that departmentalization, not that rigid stream system. Now what we have is you can choose subjects. So what you can do is you are studying fashion designing, but with that, you can take music as a subject. You are studying physics, but physics, you can take media as a subject. So there will be lot many subjects. You also talked about, Arit, about the researchers. So let me tell you now the scene is that after graduation, 3-year graduation, plus 1 year more, which will be research. So here also in graduation, many changes have been made. It's a 4-year graduation program and multiple entry and multiple exits are there. So suppose earlier what used to happen, a student due to some reason has dropped after first year or maybe second year, and he had to repeat from the first year again. But now the student suppose leaves after second year, then he gets a diploma. If he has completed his first year, he gets a certificate. If he completes his third year, he gets a graduation degree. And if he is completing 4 years, then he is getting graduation with research. Now the advantage, what you talked of research. So now the student can do his PhD directly after this 4 years. The other advantage that we have got now is students can go abroad and study, because now it's, some universities used to ask for 4 years graduation. So now it is 4 years graduation. And talking of research, we have especially formed a body, National Research Foundation, which is going to look after the research field, making research, relevant researchers, quality researchers, and also funding the students for the research. Another change I would like to mention here is MPhil has been abolished. So that's a big change. Now students are saving 2 years, So yeah, if sir wants to add, anyone can add, otherwise I can add on this.
Well, as ma'am had said, MPhil has been abolished, and but there are both kind of views on this, because earlier too, a person who did not have done MPhil could have just got net qualified and could directly go to PhD, which was again a very difficult proposition. I agree with ma'am. And in some courses there is a dilemma, because like for instance, my daughter, she has done masters in psychology. So in psychology, you had to do MPhil and only then get an RCI registration for practice. Okay, by doing PhD, you are not eligible for RCI. RCI means Rehabilitation Council of India's registration. There is still a dicey opinion on whether MPhil would continue for psychology or whether it will be classified or nomenclature would change or something of the sort would happen. So this knee-jerk abolishing of MPhil has created actually a lot of issues in certain fields. In certain fields, of course, it has helped, but in certain fields, it's created a lot of problem also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We also have with us our able student panelists. First up, we have Akshat. Hi, Akshat, are you here? We also have with us Kashish. Welcome to the both of you. Kashish, are you here? I
Akshat,
think
you are
there's-
not audible. Akshat is not audible. And
Kashish is not
Kashish,
here.
let me just check. Kashish,
Hello?
I think she's on. Yes,
Am I
Kashish,
audible?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So-
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
So we welcome both. We welcome both of our student panelists.
Siddhi, continue.
Am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you are. Yes, you are. Carry on.
So my next question is from Akshat. Akshat, what are your views on the new education policy? It's not here, I think.
I think Akshat is having some issues. Kashish,
Akshat,
we
yeah.
would request you to, answer it.
Kashish, yeah, Akshat, you're not audible. Siddhi, can we ask the question to Vishwasarpal first? Have you asked him?
No, ma'am. We
Please
can
ask him first.
definitely ask.
Please ask him first. Yeah.
Vishprathan sir, what curriculum and pedagogical changes will you think will become visible in schools after the implementation of the new education policy?
See, it's instead of say what I think.
Am I audible?
Akshat, please, when the panelists are speaking, don't make.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. You see, as you said, what I think, I would like to use the term what I dream or what I would like or what I would desire. Because this policy, as far as I have seen, it is more of a dream of people, of whatever they wanted. But then it is yet to be seen how that dream could be transferred into reality, because lot is lost down in the process. You see, more like playing Chinese whispers. So a person says something and the second to third, and by the end it reaches to last year, the meanings are greatly changed, and that is what I fear. Okay, but in a school context, one thing has been done is that compartmentalization has changed. It has not evolved, it has just been changed, like 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. So the classes existed as they were, only the compartment has changed. So probably in a good way, it will not affect the learners, but for the teachers, because a certain class of people, the teachers, they have a certain requirement, they have certain necessities. So maybe homogeneous would be more. I mean, class 1 and 2, the pedagogical challenges, the teacher's requirements is different from something class 3 and 4. Okay, like for instance, as I could say in my school, what we realized earlier, around 15 years ago, was that after class 1, class 2, the children got very restless. Okay, so we put a lot of thought into it, and we found out that these are small children. When they come to school, after an hour, they feel hungry. Okay, so we devised a system wherein class 1 and 2 would have 2 breaks. One immediately after the second period and one after the fourth period. And that made a lot of change. Okay, so you see the age group wise, there are certain different necessities. I think that would be taken care of, number one. Same necessities also comes in while creating learning experiences. The kind of methodology used for creating learning experiences would differ for different age groups. Okay, like we had, even yesterday I saw we had a wonderful storytelling session. Now, these storytelling sessions actually should be more for teachers first. We should have competition for teachers to tell stories. Because even if we talk about the tedious process of biology, of photosynthesis or assimilation or digestion, why can't the teacher start with a story that, okay, I am Mr. Bean and I got soaked last night and today I got cooked. And then I entered a cave which had 32 big stones and I got grinded and there was a narrow tube, I went down and things like that.
Wow.
Why can't the biology teacher use a story, right? So it's all about, I think these changes should come. But I would not like to attribute it to education policy. I would like to attribute it to the teacher or the system, because no policy is stopping you to perform well. Okay, the policy in fact is just guiding those who were not doing well. Those who are doing well, those who are doing from their heart, they don't need a policy. Okay, it's normally, why do rules come up? Why do we have a criminal law enforced? Because people misuse things, they created problems, and so we had a criminal law. Right? Why did we need police? So if the teachers, if they were perfect in the imparting of education, then you won't need such direction. But of course, good, the directions have come. So for those who are not able to take it in that spirit, should get motivated and do it. So that is, I feel, you will find a lot of experiments going on. I think the people who were pioneers and developing new thoughts, they would be encouraged. I hope they will be recognized and I hope they will be encouraged. And most important, this education policy has one flaw. It does not talk about how it is going to change the society. Right? I mean, when we talk about the pyramid of learning, I'm saying this not, you're just a student, but maybe the teachers and other things would understand. We have a teacher on one side, the student on the other side, and the parent at the third triangle. If the parent or society does not want me to perform in a certain way, then I cannot. Because if I do, either I'll get thrown out or the child will go out. Right? So how this policy should be spread so that the parents and the society should be enlightened and how they should respond, that is missing. It is more of trying to tighten on the system, on the teacher and the school and the college. Right? I mean, if parents are your children, right? So if parents are more motivated on the profitability of a career, how much money a child will make in a particular career, if that becomes the objective, then any education policy would be kind of lopsided. Thank you. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think, I think.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. I have a question here to ask, but please, once I would like to request everybody who's not on mute, please mute yourselves. Amadeep, sir, can we just check into that? Because I think you must please mute everyone. Thank you so much.
You had a question? Huh? No.
Yeah, sir. So does that mean that from coming out of the typical learning syndrome, we are now becoming more practical with this new education policy, whether it is parent, teacher, or student? Are we just forbidding that cramming part that was that had a successive seat over everything?
Ma'am, you see, I would like to segregate, like in the sense, first of all, cramming is not bad. Right? It is something like, nowadays we say being an introvert is bad and being an extrovert is good.
Okay.
Right? Because the meaning of words over a period of time changes its references. Earlier, extrovert was bad. Today, extrovert is good.
Good.
Okay. So now what I mean to say, cramming or rote learning is not bad. It is a faculty of the mind. It is memory. Just like logic has to be developed, just like emotions have to be developed, our memory too has to be developed. Can we make a computer which does not have RAM? And why do we need hard disks and CDs? Why do we go for a bigger configuration of telephone instead of 64 GB? Why do we want 126 GBs? I'm not saying that you go on total cramming. Cramming without understanding is bad. But once I have understood, why should I stress to spend many minutes on trying to recall it? Right? It's not cramming. You see, on the prospectus of my book, I put on a quote which says, knowledge is that, education is that when everything that has been learned has been forgotten. What remains is education. Right? So whatever you may learn, you will one day forget. But the traces that are left, they help you. So rote learning, of course, should go, but memory is not bad. Memory, you see, our scriptures, everything, they talk about, जैसे कहते हैं कंठस्थ करना. वेद है, सब है, कंठस्थ करते थे. क्यों करते थे कंठस्थ? वो जाके किताब से देख के बता सकते थे. जो सूद का काम, इंटरेस्ट का काम करते हैं, they can calculate interest कितना ड्यू है, कितना नंबर नहीं है, faster than anything. So it is not bad actually. But the wrong thing that if you're learning it just to get marks, and we're not understanding it, we're just cramming it up, that should go away.
Very true.
So my personal experience is cramming is, of course, but memory is good, cramming is bad. Thank you. I hope I have delivered.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Coming to Ganesh sir, Sadiq, can we have the next question?
Thank you so much, Vishpradhan sir. It was very insightful. I'd like to hand over to Arith.
Thank you, Siddhi. Ganesh, we have another question for you, and that is, how will the changes at undergraduate level affect postgraduate courses?
Happen, Arjit, is that undergraduate level, as Madam explained, the kind of a system we have, including this interdisciplinary and multiple exit and entries. So these things, more specialization is going to come. What is going to happen now? In fact, today I was discussing with my coordinator when we were having this discussion, that leveling of that, he's a science students, commerce students, or humanity students segment. That is, it's good. It will not be there now. But the thing is that the combinations that we have been trying, actually, it is not that it was not there. In some subjects, we've been offering and trying these kind of combination of few subjects which we were offering in commerce and science as well in different streams. But now with more, the opportunity, more options available, more offerings available, I think students will be more focused what they exactly want to do. And in post-graduation level, I think it's going to help them because they will be more prepared. For an example, I'll tell you that new education policy says that the skills learning and the internship programs, like starting from middle school, class 6, 7 onwards, which is really going to help students in order to. Otherwise, now what was happening? Until unless you enter college, then you talk about internship, you talk about the practical experience or kind of things. But now doing these all things at school level and then in graduation level, and definitely then finally any students when doing post graduation will all these skills and all these offerings and opportunity, choosing their subjects and all is definitely is going to impact in a right way. And I'm sure that the kind of products we are going to have after post graduation, those will be different kind of they will have strength, they will have experience, they will have knowledge, and they will be like very comfortable to face the challenges when they step out. That's really, really important. I just wanted to say that the complete process, if you compare the kind of system and education we had, and we all know that new education policy after 34 years, this kind of change had happened. And when complete education system started during British time, 18th century, when the complete industrial revolution and the concept came, and based on that requirement, the education system started, and then gradually many experiment happened. It is not that with national curriculum, with international curriculum coming in at school level, a lot of different kind of skills and pedagogical changes. These all happened, and everybody was trying some experiments and all kind of bringing something new. But of course, with this new structure, with new guidelines, of course, I completely agree with Bishwaji that the implementation part is very, very challenging. Very, very. It has to, because we policy making. I'm not saying that this policy is, after putting a lot of thoughts and planning, this complete structure is out. But the thing is that the challenge will be in implementation, and with that implementation, what will be the output and what kind of output we are looking for. That is, we need to see. But for your question, the post-graduation level, a lot of preparation is going to happen in undergraduate level, and that will make all students more comfortable, I think, when they do post-graduation.
I have a question for all the panel here, respected panel here. Are we actually prepared to implement this new education policy immediately in the next session? I mean, are we all set to do that?
Come in?
Yeah, please. I'd like to have all the people commenting so that even I can get some niche out of it.
Yeah.
What is going to happen is that this phase-wise, the implementation is going to happen. Phase-wise, government is planning, and the collaboration with all the education body and all. Phase-wise is going to happen, and there are few important points they have taken initially in the first phase, which is going to be completed by, or to start with 2022. Having all these initial, for an example, the language, the local language impact, then a few other things, which is based on the skill-based learning and all. These are going to be implemented at the first phase, and then gradually, it's going to up. Because you see, we will see the change when the implementation is going to happen at school level, and then we see the change in college level and probably undergraduate and then post-graduation. This is how the complete change is going to happen, and the result we are going to see, in few years. Immediately, you will not come to know what is the impact. It's like, changing something at board level. Let's say, for example, at 9-10 level, something we need to start at class 9. And then we see in class board examination, 10 examination, we see the change, how it's going to be, what would be the outcome.
May I come in, please?
Yeah, sure, sir, please.
As sir said, that we need to have a kind of a metamorphosis, slow thing. But and it's a big but, the history that I am seeing is that people are jumping the gun just to prove a point. Now the policy has been declared, so probably to appease the political masters or to make a point that we're very forthcoming. There are associations, academicians who are jumping forward. I'll quote an example. 2 years ago, the policy was that any child with commerce and mathematics could apply for architecture after 12th, right? So one of my students did this option. But last year, Council of Architecture immediately said, no, now you need PCM. And they did it with immediate effect. So now that child, in fact, he came to me today. Now he's dropping a year doing PCM again from NIOS after completing 12th from CBSE. Because Council of Architecture just did it like that. So probably, the academicians, the boards and all, they have to keep these things in mind. I mean, you promised them commerce and arts, commerce and maths and architecture 2 years ago. Now that child took an option in 11th. Yeah. But in the middle, you change your mind. So I just hope that the authorities do not, make just jumping kind of things without seeing the ground realities, because the principals and teachers, they know, small, these finer points that are coming up. They will start tinkering with small things which they can, like, compartmentalizing 5 + 3 + 3. That doesn't affect the student in much of a way. They can do that. They can start with nomenclature things. But these things which actually matter, like for instance, this 4-year graduation that has come in now. In 2011, 12, 13, it was a 4-year graduation which Mr. Kapil Sibal had done. The moment BJP had come into power, immediately with immediate effect, in April it announced that no, now no 4 years, only 3 years. Mm-hmm. So all the children who were eligible for Delhi University for 4 years suddenly got a shock. Their applications were all void. They filled up again, and the cutoffs changed. the percentages changed, some benefited and some lost.
Right.
So from what I've seen is when people are, kind of, it's like, just patake chhod rahe, khatak se, make a lot of sound, make a lot of noise, light, but might not have the desired effect. So I am afraid of that, because this policy, to be effective, it needs to come from the society, from the parent, and from the teacher. It cannot come from bureaucrats to the society.
Absolutely, sir. That's my point here, that still there are so many questions, so many doubts, and there are so many apprehensions in the parents regarding the new education policy, and they call you up at times. Does that mean that now this is removed? Can our child actually, are we moving towards the European culture? So I mean, either this has to be actually given a priority to make parents aware of it. First of all, the society aware of it, what changes we have made.
As you said, ma'am, we are not moving towards the European culture. We are, in fact, it's like moving both ways. Okay, like for instance, you talk to any parent in nursery, LKG, they want their child to speak in English. They want the nursery teacher, LKG teacher to be speaking in English to the children. And here we have a policy which says no English till class 5. So there is a huge heterogeneity in the schools. If we talk about the English medium schools, the so-called at the moment preferred schools, I'm not saying they're the better schools, but they're preferred schools. Parents come to them with certain expectations.
Yeah.
Now, if they are not teaching English, what difference would it be between their school and another school which was earlier not so? Right. So it is not bridging the gap. It is kind of, creating another gap. If these things go on, probably, you see, like 5 years ago, after graduation, people went outside. Now today, after 12th, they're going outside. After another 5 years, probably after 10th or after 8th, they will be going outside to study, which is not a good sign.
Yeah.
What have this policy done to stop those children going outside for graduation? Why are they going abroad? So there are certain limitations here which I am afraid which are not very good. Thank you.
So, ma'am, I wanted to have
your sure. Then what I want to say here, see, now we are in pandemic, so everything is uncertain when the schools will reopen. So, talking of implementation of the policy, earlier also it is like 2023, but I don't think. And second issue is that dreams are very big, as Vishwa sir was saying, but its implementation is really very, very challenging. So first of all, what they are targeting by 2035, they want to achieve many things. First is gross enrollment of the students in higher education by 50%. So what does this mean? This means that you want colleges every week, new college, only then you can achieve that 50% enrollment in higher education.
Absolutely.
So I think there are many, many challenges. If you allow me to speak, then I can just take on the challenges.
Sure.
Okay. So, opening of schools. So many schools will be required because, you want these targets to be achieved by 2035. Then now sir was saying languages. They are talking of till 5th, teach them in the native language or regional language. Now in Delhi, we have no regional language. There are so many different kind of people and different kind of languages are spoken over here. So we cannot say that, the child suppose is in Delhi in 2nd and then he goes to Hyderabad and there he has to study Telugu. So, things are, then teachers also, they also need to be expert in 2 languages. If they have to take the medium of instruction in that particular regional language. The challenges are many, many, many. If I talk of holistic approach, they are talking in education policy. Now, how many quality institutes we have right now? Hardly any. To provide that kind of infrastructure for holistic development. They want children to, develop not only academically, but physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, and spiritually. And they want to give importance to all the subjects equal. Sports also, music also, art also, and to develop children in all the fields, especially in the time of artificial intelligence and all that. So we need that kind of infrastructures and the devices and many things. They are also talking of technology in all subjects and all that, but I'm not saying they are wrong or anything, but only challenge is the implementation. Already we are having so much of digital divide. So, and you see the technical glitches we face in the sessions. So with all this, the technology is not reaching the remote children and all that. So we have to give these things, only then our dreams, what we are having in the education policy, will come true. Otherwise, it is just a policy and it will remain a policy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Sudhi and Aras, please carry on.
Thank you, ma'am Meenu Bhargav. Thank you, Vishwa sir. Thank you, Ganesh sir. Thank you, Swarleen ma'am, for all of your insights. We also have Saksham with us today. He's also a student panelist. So my next question is from Saksham. Saksham, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Sudhi.
The new education policy has in the new education policy, the focus has been given to the overall development of the student. How will that affect the existing practices of the educational institution? Please elaborate.
Right. So now, being a student, I know for sure that I will not be, affected by the implementation of NEP in any way in school itself, because I'm in class 11. So by the time it comes into effect, so it won't affect me or people from my batch or people from my senior batches in our primary initial development that comes through the school. But for the kids that are there in the junior classes, or the ones that will come in the classes, considering as and when the policy is implemented, one thing is that this policy, with all its changes, is, if you look at it, it's trying to widen the gap, the economic gap, and the gap of education. Because if you look at it, if they're teaching coding to every kid in class 6, what about those kids who are there? Let's talk about government schools, wherein they don't have devices. So now, how will you teach coding simply just by, let's say on a blackboard or something, without actually practically making those kids practice coding? So this is one thing. And if you're promoting vocational education, now it is true that there is there is too much focus on academics in the private schools and any school in our country. But the fact is that in government schools, there is no, even the academics are not to such a level that you can include vocational education just in that, without improving the academics as well. So if they're including vocational education, they must raise the standard of the academics as well. And as I guess it was Vishwa sir who said that rote learning there's nothing wrong with cramming. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with cramming without memory. Like if I do not recall something, if I do not recall the concept, how will I apply it? So the problem is not cramming. The problem is only cramming. So the policy brings about many changes and its implementation, but the policy, as I personally feel, does not talk about how they are going to change the mode as to how this education is imparted. They're saying they will train the teachers, they will provide better training to the teachers. But again, I believe that we are digitalizing in every way, but the mode of education should go back to a more analog approach, starting from a ground level. Teaching kids by making them relate to a concept. If the focus that I feel when teachers teach me, many teachers, not all, but many, is that this will come in the exam and you will learn this. Now, that makes me feel that, whatever I'm learning, it's just for that exam.
Exactly.
So this focus must change. As some people have already said, societal change must be there before the policy is implemented. So this societal change must come that, your focus, the way why you're attaining education is not for your job, is not for your career or your cutoff or anything. It is for, your whole holistic development. And this is not ingrained in the students. This is not even told once in any way that it can be, practically applied in our life. And secondly, if they're changing the way we are educated, they must change the way we are employed.
Yes.
Companies then should not look for just academic, how I have performed in, let's say, my college or anything. They should also look at my vocational education. They should also look at, how well I behave emotionally or with certain other factors. So if both these things go hand in hand, employment and education. So NEP changes the way education goes ahead, but the ministry must change the way we are employed as well. Otherwise, it will just be a disbalanced equation and there won't be any benefit from that. That's all I have to say.
I agree with
Saksham, very, yeah.
So please go ahead. Yeah.
But can I just clarify a small point? Saksham, I'm very impressed by the way you have put on things. You got it right. But as you said, I would like to improvise. When I said cramming is good, let me say that cramming is good, learning is good, memory is good. But the teachers must change the way of their assessments. Their assessments should not be based on memory. Okay, because memory is the first step. After that, you come to assimilation and organization and manipulation and articulation. So the question papers and the teachers should be testing the manipulation and articulation of information rather than the memory part. So the problem is not with the students. The problem is with the testing system.
Yes, sir.
Right. And second point is marketability. I would like to say one more thing. Why are we talking about that our education should be such that it should be more marketable? Again, when we are prioritizing marketability, we are again falling into the same trap that is existing. Why should ever be thinking of marketability? Why is economics taking over everything? Education is for the development of a mind. Right? If an educated person opens a pawn shop, I'm sure he's going to do it very differently and he's going to succeed. People will find the difference. So marketability is a problem of the society at the moment. And the education policy, I don't know how they want to cover it up. Because again, as I said, it is the society which actually has to take the change in, and then it passes to because the aspirations of the parents become the aspiration of the child and the task of the teacher. Thank you.
Yes, sir, absolutely. In fact, to achieve all these changes and to bring about a gradual and a, well thought change, they would have to, direct more funds towards education. Funds are directed towards every other thing, but if you look at it via developed countries like Norway or let's say even Germany, both these countries have free education, even in college. I was just checking my career, so I know that they have free education in their government colleges, and those colleges are world class. And our universities do not even rank. I don't think there's one university which ranks in the top 50 universities of the world. So funds must be directed and the approach must change. Yes, sir, the evaluation system, the way we are examined. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to add, basically in the 21st century, there is an information bombardment. So what we need is skills to be developed in children. Memorization skill, I agree, is very, very essential. But other than that, critical thinking skills, the problem solving skills, the creative thinking skills, all these skills, hand-on experiences, real life skills. Now, this adversity has come. How to cope up with this adversity? So we should prepare students even emotionally to face all these kind of challenges. So these kind of skills we need, and that is what the education policy is targeting towards. But, the implementation depends on the teachers and the parents, because parents have to be ready for it. So they need more and more orientation, more and more counseling, because they are the ones, who will go for paper pencil test. Bacche ke number kitne aaye? Yeah, because Saksham was very rightly saying, they are just interested in marks, comparison. All these things have to go away. So the mindset has to be changed. Mindset of teachers, mindset of parents, and mindset of the students all need change. Yeah.
Actually, that societal pressure that is being levied. Now, if my child wants to, because he is interested in tools and he wants to learn carpentry, the people would hear mock at him. Come on, do you want to become a carpenter? Banoge kya?
Exactly.
But if you go out of your country, they are so well, handsomely paid. They are doing that skill. It's just like, developing the skill. So why don't we focus on skill development? Of course, this new education policy talks of skill development, but the other thing is the society that we are living in has to accept it.
Right.
The acceptance has to be done.
Yes.
Acceptance has to come.
Sorry, can I come in?
Yes, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you. So I just wanted to share with you that, once we had a student exchange program with Sweden, one school in Stockholm, and we visited the school, and I asked students, I said, how many subjects you have? They said, we have 18 subjects. And we were like, our students, and we were thinking, 18 subjects they're studying. Then I asked, I said, which all subjects? So what you are saying that, skill-based subjects like carpentry and all, they do it so nicely. I mean, these all subjects, they do it so nicely. And we visited their studios and all, and they know how to make things and all. And still in India, our emphasis are more focus is on science, mathematics, the core subjects, as we say. But what is important is that all these skills-based subjects, learning and all, will really help them when they actually choose their field or by their professions or whatever they do. So I mean, these kind of concepts, we need to implement and kind of include, as we have now the opportunity with the new education policy to include a lot of skills-based concepts that can be included to our system now. So far, we have been doing, if you see in carpentry and school, if you ask, they do it as a club, hobby club once in a week and probably once in 2 weeks or something like that. But it has to be kind of included, incorporated in a regular system. Then it's going to, you see, the kind of change, the kind of, though we have this multiple intelligence approach, children will opt for it, and probably if they are good and they like it, they will grow in that field.
Absolutely.
Can I come in, please?
Yeah, sure. Please, sir.
As Ganesh sir has said, like when I was in school, our school had motor mechanics as SUPW. So we used to wonder why they're teaching about piston cylinder and carburetor and all that stuff. And they would say, agar aapki gaadi raaste mein kharab hogi, those days we had Mazdas and Fiats, which actually needed some manipulation in the way. So now what is happening is everybody is
Sorry, Vishwa sir, I think we are losing you.
Can I speak? Can I come in?
Please,
Yes.
ma'am, please.
Okay. So some good things that I have liked about the new education policy. Till now, 10th class, one board exam, and everything depended on it. Suppose the child has fallen sick on the last minute and he's not getting good marks in 11th class, he will not get a stream. Till now, this is the pattern. So they have made it now semester system. Yeah, in 10th class, boards. And now if the student suppose doesn't do well in the on the final exam, then he has another option also. After 6 months, there is has been this. So more emphasis now is on the internal assessment and the regular assessment. They have become more important. The second good thing I've liked about is choosing subjects. Of course, till now, students were forced to study physics, chemistry, and maths. A student doesn't want to study maths maybe or physics with the this combination, the whole thing, but he was forcibly doing that. Now he has the choice. It's like a buffet. He can choose what subject he wants to take. So some good things have happened. Now they are talking about, the classroom strength, 30 children in one class. That is very good concept. My only concern is concepts are very good. They have addressed many issues, but execution, the implementation, that is the biggest thing. Teachers training and the students, to develop these all new things. Now they are talking of B.Ed, which they are talking of integrated B.Ed, BA B.Ed of 4 years or BSc B.Ed of 4 years, or even after MA, the child. So teachers need to be given those skills. Upgradation of teachers is very, very necessary.
Ma'am, I have a follow-up question, if I
Yeah.
can ask that.
Sure.
Ma'am, this policy talks about drastic changes in the evaluation system as well,
Yeah.
like peer evaluation and self-evaluation. So, ma'am, how will that improve the underlying structure?
Yeah, see that, there are many things in this policy which still have to be worked out. They have made national assessment body, Parak. Yeah. So Parak is going there, the ideas will be shared on assessment tools and many things. So unless and until we change these assessment patterns, how to assess a student can be assessed even through a role play or a story or a quiz or many other ways. So these all, right now it is not very clear, the peer assessment, how it is going to work. Even we had in the CC pattern this peer assessment, but it was not a very successful thing. It was all fake. So yes, there are many things we need. Still, it has to be worked out. The frameworks have to be prepared for the real execution.
Absolutely. These questions, Ganesh sir, Meenu ma'am, were all asked by the students and their parents. So we actually thought that it was wonderful. We also have a student panel, Kashish. She's also one of my favorite student and speaker. Kashish, even I would like to know your opinion about the new education policy as you are gathering it from students. How do you feel? What were the questions that you felt were coming the most out of the new education policy?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Ma'am, this this National Education Policy 2020, it's like it's a grand vision by the government. I mean, and it is actually a step in the right direction. They have, our education system, Indian education system, is very redundant, and it required a leap forward, right? So they've taken a lot of insights from the developed nations, and like vocational studies is one of them, and a few other things, which is actually good. But the point comes the implementation at the grassroots level. Now we have schools which are just a single room, a brick walled thing, and there are students, clustering there and studying. Right. Then there are teachers, especially this kind of thing is seen in government schools where the teachers have not come to school. Like there was a teacher, she had a 24-year teaching career, out of which 23 years she was absent from school. So these kind of
exactly. Nice.
These kind of things make it very skeptical that whether this new education policy, which has been laid out by the government, will it be implemented in the way they have designed it? Will the implementation go to the grassroots level? Right. Now they've talked about that they want to focus on critical thinking, numeric ability. Right. They want to focus on the core essentials subjects. I guess, see, mathematics is also something which requires critical thinking. But we go to the convenient method of rote learning all the sums and everything. So it requires a level of dedication, that drive within each and every school, the structure, the system, to get out of their comfort zone, get out of that convenience, and then think logically. Right? Everything can be, memorized. But if you have to think logically, you've got to put those efforts. So it requires that. Right. Then talking about the new national education policy overall, it's an overhaul of the curriculum, right? It is we are trying to become multidisciplinary, and that's a very good step. I mean, the science student can also love music, so should be given that allowance to give weightage to music also, right? A commerce student like me can also like history or political science, should be given the option to study that. So it is a very good in letter. It is a very good policy, but we have to see if in spirit will it be the same. and the 20 years period which they've taken, right? By 2040, they say that it will be implemented fully. It can be, provided every year efficient work has been done at the grassroots level, leveling of the education system, so that, as Saksham said, that there are not computers. How will a government school child learn coding? So if we can have a level playing field for the initial years, we focus on making a level playing field for everybody. Only then can this implementation take place in the best possible manner, right? And after all, in the end, and the most important thing, funding, right? They've mentioned that they will use 6% of GDP. The 1986 policy was hamstrung only because of lack of funding. So let's see how is the funding, used in the most integrated manners. They've made bodies for every aspect of NEP. They've made a body for all the related subjects. So let's see. They made it on the bureaucrat level. It looks very good. It's very nice. But let's see what happens at the grassroots level. So that is what I'm expecting. And
listening to them, I think they've done so much of their homework that they already know so much about the policy.
Very true. Yeah.
Looking at them, it comes to.
Yeah, one another point, like smaller schools are there. They are not having so many students. A subject is chosen by a student and only 10 students have that subject. Now to have the teacher for those 10 students or 1 student or 2 students. So logistically also, we have to see how things will work out. So there are many. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we've lost Vish sir. He's not here.
Oh.
Yeah. Akshat, you are heading towards looking for your careers and the new education policy. What do you think as being the youngest panelist here? You're not audible, beta.
Right. Hello.
Yeah, come on.
Apology for that. Well, I feel that it's an amazing initiative which has been taken because, as rightly said by Saksham, previously it was measuring by exams. Well, I believe that exams are important, but I will totally agree to the statement when the way of taking that exam will be changing. When, like, there's a sentence in the book, these mountains are named as Himalayas. And now the question asked in the exam is, what are these mountain ranges called? But if the question would be, why are these mountain ranges called Himalayas? Then I think that it would be the right way of taking the exam. Because it is knowledge that matters, not marks. Actually, I personally believe that.
Yeah.
Akshat, your views, actually the new education policy, the policy makers are going to come and definitely take your advice at such a young age.
Yes.
If I would be blessed.
Thank you. That's what I'm telling you, Ganesha, Meenu ma'am, that we already have them done their homework so well and they know pretty well what's good and what's bad for them.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much.
Correct, actually. Saying that, kind of questioning, you have to have now. That's really important. I mean, this is what the difference, the initially, I just wanted to mention because the international curriculum, the approach of assessment, and in the national curriculum, what we have, there's a huge difference. And this is what the new education policy, this gap is, now I think we'll be able to fill that gap.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we are talking of building, employability skills in students because they are having degrees. Many students have degrees, but if you talk of skills, the communication skills or, presentation skills or technological skills, they are missing on that. And that is the reason why they are not becoming employable. So to make them employable, what we need is these skills, the technological skills, the communication skills, the problem solving, creative thinking, all these skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Meenu ma'am. Thank you so much, Dinesh sir. It was amazing to have you because the insights for this very good topic are actually needed as the need of the hour. And in fact, I must say that there are so many apprehensions going on in the minds of the people, and I think they must have definitely, whether it is a teacher, a student, or a parent, they must have definitely benefited from this session. Over to you, Arith and Siddhi. Let's thank the panelists.
Yes, ma'am. Goodbyes can't really be a happy moment. But today, I feel blessed for just being a part of this insightful session. The advice, the insights that have been offered by the distinguished panel today has enriched my knowledge and understanding, as I am sure for all the students who have joined us today.
I thank our guests, our panelists, and also our student panelists, Akshat, Kashish, and Saksham, and also Swarleen ma'am for having this panel discussion at the International Children's Summit.
Thank you so much, Arith. Thank you. So,
It has been a splendid evening, but like the day and the sun, it too has to rest. So this is me, Siddhi,
And me, Arith.
signing off. Hasta la vista. Goodbye till we meet again.
Thank you, Swarleen ma'am, for giving us an opportunity to be on this platform.
I wouldn't have missed you.
Thank you.
Meenu ma'am, thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot to be there for us. Thank you.
We have also, found it very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.